Good morning, everybody. So I got to make just a couple of corrections to what Marcus has said. Semi-professional. Nah, I like to play. I enjoy playing poker. I played in over 30 casinos worldwide, and it's good because it allows you to kind of hone some skills. Because what you do is you want to either buy a pot for the smallest amount of money possible, or get somebody to sell you a pot for as much as possible. You want to be able to get as much out of that pot for as little investment as possible. So those are the types of things that you do when you go out and you play poker. The other is that I serve as the crop science lead here at Boston Life Hub. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this. But I also want to introduce John Giebel, who's the overall lead of the Life Hub here. Life Hub is a corporate office here, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And I'll also tell you that I've been in ag my entire career, as Marcus says, over 30 years. And to give you an idea about how things have changed over that time, is back in the late 80s, I was on the faculty at the University of Illinois in the College of Agriculture, Department of Agronomy. And at that time, I purchased the second PCR machine on campus. It held like 16 or 24 tubes, I remember, in a block, something like that. So that's what we had. People used to sign up and come down from different parts of the campus to do that. So a lot has changed over that time. What I'm going to talk to you today is about what we do in open innovation and investments. But what I first have to do is talk a little bit about the fact that we are a large corporation. I'll be telling you about some things, and whatever I do here, don't use this to make any financial decisions about buying or selling any stock, please. So at Bayer, we are a life science company. We focus exclusively on the life sciences in both looking at agriculture and healthcare. Okay? And the reason for this is that, as you all hear, the population is growing. We have more and more people who are aging, so we focus a lot on that type of thing. And in order to maintain this, we need to focus in on both health and nutrition. So sustainable agriculture where we can produce ingredients for those types of for nutrition, and again healthcare to allow people to age better, take better care of themselves. And we do that through three divisions: pharmaceutical division, our consumer health division, so Alka-Seltzer, Flintstones, Coppertone, Dr. Scholl's, that's all part of Bayer, and our crop science division, which is where I sit. In crop, we are now the largest ag concern on the planet. We just recently, about 6 weeks ago, we completed our acquisition of Monsanto, a St. Louis company. So we've completed that acquisition, and I tell you that time-wise 6 weeks ago because what I'll be telling you about is basically the snapshot of what Bayer had been going on before 6 weeks, up until about 6 weeks ago. Okay, because we're in the process of integrating and bringing all this in, and as you can imagine, in a $63 billion deal, there's a lot to bring together and a lot to integrate. So I'll be talking primarily about what had been going on within the Bayer organization. But our crop science is what we're here to talk about today, is that we look at what it takes for a grower to produce a crop. So starting with the seed. First the seed. You sometimes hear that slogan that comes from the American Seed Trade Association, but first the seed. So we have a seed business and we incorporate traits into those seeds, and then various treatments that we have to go through. Those treatments can be chemical treatments, they can be biologic treatments, microbial treatments, and then from there we have to, once that gets into the ground, of course we have to protect that crop. So we have to protect that crop from weeds, pests, diseases. Those are all things that basically take away yield, take away from the ability of the grower to produce a crop. And then we have services which we refer to in general as digital farming. So we provide digital farming. There's a lot of digital in ag these days. So if you think about agriculture now, one of the biggest advances that has come along most recently is the era of digital farming. So a lot of information, these growers collect a lot of information, again, to allow them to grow a crop. But what we do here in Bayer is we look at a lot of different ways in which we can bring innovation in. It used to be in companies, as some of you may recall, you had a lot of internal innovation. You hired a lot of smart people and had them do all the work that was, you had them do all that work, right? Get smart people in, have them do things. We can't do all that. So now we look at this as kind of an overall ecosystem that we use, where we bring in innovation from a number of sources. We have strategic alliances. We have labs that we actually share with either other companies or with universities. Individual projects that we might have that go out to either within Bayer or at the specific universities. And then we do some different things, and we'll talk about later on, is kind of what we do in the VC investment world. What we do here, crowdsourcing and incubators, I'll take the opportunity now to talk about what we do here in Boston, because I think most of this group is local from around this area. So I'll tell you about what we do here in Boston. What we've done is we're developing a series of life hubs around the planet. And so far we have 6 of those life hubs that are in different stages of development. And the 3 that we have that are related to crop science are here in Boston. We also have one in California and one in Lyon. So here in Boston, what we do is we're focusing on looking at the local tech ecosystem and what can we do to co-create. We do some different things there, and we also want to position Bayer as the partner of choice. And where we're located is just up the road at 610 Main. You might know it as the Orange Pfizer building just above Salmona Restaurant. And that's where we're located over there. It's a small office. It's kind of an embassy, as we usually refer to it. It's about 12 people, where we have crop science, pharmaceutical, and consumer health all represented there. So that's what we do here. California, we focus on our biologics and vegetable seeds for the most part. What we do there's a lot of activity out there as well. And we also have an incubator out there at Life Hub California. Lyon, if anybody's been to Lyon or into France, you know that they are very fond of their food. Lyon, if you talk to somebody from Lyon, they'll say they're the food capital of the world, and they do have a lot of great restaurants there. But what they don't do is they have in general, the population there is somewhat skeptical of agricultural technology. So there we have ways in which we can engage with society to get them to listen to what they're concerned about and try to provide some assurances and some education on what goes on in modern agriculture to do that. We also have an incubator that we're getting started up out there as well, primarily looking at data science, digital solutions to some of our specific problems. So here in Boston, we focus on in 3 areas in how we work with the tech community here, the ecosystem here. We run co-creation sprints, and in those are a 3-day activity where to address a challenge that's been brought into Bayer by one of our businesses. The most recent one we did was brought to us by our environmental science business, which works with providing solutions for different types of things, either turf at golf courses, for example, or pest control in residences or in commercial areas like hotels. So they had a technology that they wanted to license in that would detect bed bugs, an easy bed bug detection technology. So I already decided to license the technology in, but they weren't sure how to monetize that, how to do this. So actually what we did is we went out. John and I worked with our guys in environmental science in that group, came up with to frame the challenge, what it is they wanted to do. Went out to the community, identified individuals who applied in to participate in that sprint. Over the course of 3 days, we introduced them to the challenge. We taught them a bit about design thinking, and then they went out and built some prototype models that they could use to address that situation, how to build a business model to use this technology and add value to not only to the consumer or the customer, but also to Bayer. So those are the types of things that we do to bring people in to address those problems. We offer mentoring, some soul sessions where people can come in one-on-one. We can talk about different things. What's it like to work in ag? I want to work in pharma, but I don't know if I have the right background. So we offer that with different people who have the expertise in Bayer to talk to students, postdocs, entrepreneurs, to understand about what it is that we do. And then community gatherings, which are kind of like meetups. So we bring people in on a specific topic. For example, we ran something with West, the Women in the Enterprise of Science and Technology, a local group here. John serves on their board. We had a group there. What's it like for how can a startup work with a large corporation? So those types of things that we do, okay? So those are some of the things that we run there. So what we also do is we go through this, and what you guys are most interested in doing and hearing about today are our VC investments. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but again, I'm going to be talking about the status quo in Bayer as of mid-August of this year, okay? But what we do know is that there's a lot of money coming into the AgTech community, into AgTech investments. You know that around here. In this area alone, Boston, Cambridge, there's been a lot of money that's gone in overall to investments. If you look at what Flagship has been doing with Indigo, with SIBO, with Inari, there's been a lot of money going in here. What Bayer has been doing with Join Bio, for example, there's a lot of money been going into these, going into ag at this time. Overall, the number of deals is going up, and there are some large deals being done at this time. And again, one of the biggest things that we see now going on is working with the overall farm management. How can a grower use all this information to produce a crop? And what I usually the example I try to tell people is that if you think about corn, most of my career has been focused on corn or maize. If you look at corn, the average yield in the U.S. in the Corn Belt is a couple hundred bushels, 220 bushels per acre maybe. You don't have to know what that means or anything, but just 220 bushels per acre is the average yield. Now there are a bunch of different hybrids grown in all different parts of the Corn Belt. But every year, the seed companies, like Bayer, would run a yield contest. So, for example, what we do with a DeKalb seed, go out and run a yield contest. So what farmers do then is they take a small plot, maybe half an acre, maybe an acre, and they intensively manage that with a given hybrid. They manage that very, very carefully. So they keep all the disease out, they put a lot of inputs in, water it appropriately. And in those contests are yielding over 500 bushels per acre. So the genetic potential of that corn hybrid is there to produce 500 bushels, but it's very expensive to do that, all right? Like, for example, if you could take an Indy car and you could drive that from here to California, in just a few hours, but you're not going to be doing that, right? It's not practical to do that type of thing because it's going to be very expensive to do. Plus, we don't have the roads for it. But the point being is that the potential is there, so what we're trying to do is to use as much information as possible to be able to get up to that, get closer to that genetic potential for yield. So that's one of the biggest things we do. So one of the things we look at very carefully is how can we pull this information in and allow the grower to make the best decisions on how to manage resources that go into that. The way Bayer had been addressing investments in VC investments in agriculture particularly up until, as I say, 6 weeks ago, was in indirect investments. So what we did was we would invest in specific funds, which would then go invest in those technologies. What that does is allows us to invest in that fund, kind of like a mutual fund. So we can invest in that fund, and that would do two things. It would bring us deal flow. It would bring us information about companies and provide us with the opportunity to license, collaborate, or acquire as we looked at these things. But also it allowed us to see what's going on and get access to that. So with Flagship Pioneering here in Cambridge, we have invested in a fund. AgTech Accelerator, which is down in North Carolina, is another that we have invested in. Out west, Finisterre and Radical. We also have deals with Antera Capital and Trendlines. Antera, although that's in Europe, they also have an office here, as you know, and Trendlines in Israel. So we invest in these things in different ways, and out of that have come some companies that we have worked to invest in. There's EB-Ag, which is some novel insecticides that we're looking at, and also other things like new classes of fungicides that we might be able to use. So we've evaluated now between 3,000 and 4,000 different companies in the overall ag space that have come into us. And these are just a couple of examples that we have here. We also have a program called LEAPS by Bayer. I remind you again that Bayer is a relatively diverse company focused on the life sciences. So LEAPS by Bayer is looking at high-risk targets. One of the things that we've done is to go out to look at the 10 big challenges in science that can help benefit society. If we can solve these problems, can we benefit society? And I'll just talk about 2 examples here that are here in this area. One is called Casibia. Casibia is a joint venture between Bayer and CRISPR Therapeutics, and it's focused on gene editing solutions that would provide therapy or therapeutics to address congenital eye diseases. So give sight to the blind. That's one of the things we have going on here through our LEAPS program. The other one, which we'll hear about a little bit later on, is a joint venture between Ginkgo and Bayer called JOIN. And what JOIN does is that's focused on looking at ways in which to address resource utilization for growers. So can we come in here and reduce the amount of fertilizer that is going on into ag? And Mike Milley is here, and we'll be hearing a little bit more about that later. But that's one of the ideas in which we do. These are direct investments, but what we do is form new companies. In these, we form new companies, new joint ventures, which we can go out there and to capitalize on the expertise that comes from the partner and the resources that come from Bayer to address programs that Bayer has. So some of these things I didn't have the chance to talk about, but I just wanted to indicate that we are looking now at a more complex ecosystem for accessing innovative solutions to our problems. So as I say, we used to have internal research, and that's what we would focus on. But now we work across what we consider to be an ecosystem. So we have our own internal R&D. We work with universities. We sponsor research, or have research actually sponsored by companies or other entities into Bayer. And I could talk about some of that later on if you want. And we have crowdsourcing activities where we have programs we call grants for a number of different types of things. And I just talked a little bit about our VC activities. So I'll leave you with just reminding you that Life Hub Boston is just down the road. And if you'd like to talk to me or to John later on, we can provide you with any other information.
We'll take maybe 1 or 2 questions if there are any in the audience at this point. So you're going to have to catch this and then talk into the microphone here. You ready? There we go.
Steve Fisher with UBS. What would you say, as you think about the next 5 years, are the biggest challenges that ag technology really needs to address, to kind of create a successful, let's say, domestic agricultural industry here? I mean, is it beyond yield? Is it labor? Is it water? Is it farmer financial health? What are the biggest things that need to be addressed?
Some of the biggest things, we have a panel to address some of those later on, where we can talk about some of those questions later on. But some of the biggest things that really is maximizing the use of resources. So I mean, really, it indeed is water, it's land, it's how we can get more of that, more productivity. So it all still comes down to yield. But also, to a large extent, if we go out into other areas, it's getting more access to good foods. So getting indoor farming, container farming, which we can do to get people more engaged, get more produce over to people in areas where they don't have real good access to that type of produce, high quality produce.
Okay, so you got to throw it back. One more. No, so we're going to go to the startup presentations. Let's thank Al.